Got it. And let me, whew. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone's doing well. Share
Good. Take your
screen.
time. It's all good.
I appreciate it. This is going to be a, hopefully as succinct. I have so many things, so many notes I've been taking over the past few weeks as I've been just preparing and delving into what it means to talk about Paradise in connection with journaling. And yeah, I look forward to sharing this with you all. As Yannick said, which thank you very Yannick for that kind introduction. My name is Shaman. I'm 30 winters old. I'm a diarist and letter writer, and the founder of the Black Letter Writers Society, and Vagabond Journals. I've been keeping a journal for a little over 20 years, and I've been working as an outsider artist with my work, Vagabond Journals, shortened to VGB Journals, for about 8 years now. And stationery in general is my medium when it comes to my generational mandate, which is being a cultural gatekeeper that speaks to the archival as cultural preservation. So I'm very glad to be here and to present this aspect of my work with you. And I hope that you're encouraged to see the act that the West calls journaling, the act of putting our words into our books in a new light, in a more mandate-oriented light. So here's an example of some of my work, just to give you like more of an idea. There's a few people here that are friends of Vagabond, which thank you for being here, for your support. But this is essentially the work that I do, creating surfaces and books that get us excited and more aligned with telling our stories to ourselves in a private manner. So at first, so today we are going to be speaking on, or I'll be sharing with you, journaling as a method of cultivating Black paradise. There'll be time for questions at the end. Please don't hesitate to put them in the chat anytime throughout. When I first got the idea, when Yannick first came to me and said, I want you to do this workshop, I was like, oh, I haven't really thought about that. And then I remembered that last year, my collection, the Black Lands collection, was in essence my idea and ideating around what ice could be. I just didn't really use that phrase. I was using the idea of creating an alternate past so that we can posit, so that I can posit what an alternate future could be, and creating artifacts that go along with that to stir and quicken our imaginations in these times, engage our histories, and create these futures, to create these ideal scenarios for ourselves. So this has been kind of my foray into creating paradise. Can you guys see this? Sorry. Okay. Wondering what a world that celebrates the history of Blackness and celebrates the ideas that come with paradise look like. So this has been my exploration, and it's an ongoing exploration. And honestly, the lesson that this collection has taught me is how many of us are actually not working to, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but there's a lot of us who have misunderstood Black culture to the point in which we don't realize that part of our duty as a people is to posit this ourselves in the idea and the framework of what paradise could look like. Part of our, so this is the official beginning, by the way, part of our work in, hold on, I cannot see my screen. I would like to hide this. Hold on. I want to hide this bar. Here we go. Apologies, guys. I just want to hide the bar that's blocking my. So in essence, what we're doing with journaling, especially with regards to journaling, to get to or to posit the idea of what paradise looks like for us, is migrating from the idea of journaling and going towards historicizing. This is actually the title of a book that I wrote, of a zine. I called it a bookletine, a zine that I wrote a couple of years ago. But the idea is deviating from the idea of saying, oh, I'm just writing about my daily happenings, and instead you're going into the idea of the grounded confidence that everything that's happening around you is contributing to the journey, that's contributing to your overall narrative, contributing to your story. And even though you can't figure it out right now, one day the aggregated books, the aggregated library is going to make sense, and it's going to be the artifact that proves, that is evidence, that is witness to the calling and the mandate and the purpose that you are walking in, and something that I call journeying soulfully. And I say that we're going towards historicizing because right now it's the private act of journaling, but in the future, it's going to be these journals, these books are going to be blueprints for our descendants. And at the end of the day, it's the conclusion that makes the difference, the conclusion of what this living book means. If the conclusion is, I've been through this and I'm disconnected from these words that I've been writing, then it's a useless book. If the conclusion is, I am writing these books, and as a result of the stories that of the narrative that I'm preserving, I'm changing in tandem to it, then it's a useful book in the cultivation of paradise. I hope that makes sense. Journaling I have a lot of notes, so be patient with me. Journaling as Westerners permits us to stay in a mindset that creates useless books, random rambling catalogs. And we're not writing catalogs of our feelings. We're not writing chronicles of latent victories. We're chronicling latent victories in the time we've been allotted. So again, this is the difference. It's actually the surgical act of journeying and sojourning and being able to decipher, okay, yes, I've been through this. Yes, I've seen this. Yes, I've encountered this. And then maybe in a few books you're finding, and this is why. This is the reason why. Making these connections so that you can make these new futures for yourself. It's corporeal to preserving ourselves for paradise. When I first encountered the idea of framing this, the song that came to mind was from Willy Wonka, ironically enough. It's a favorite movie of mine for many reasons that don't really have to do with the theme itself, but the notion of this song right here to me was very powerful. Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation. What we'll see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it, want to change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be. And something that I've realized is that paradise is extremely accessible to those of us who have eyes to see it. And the summary of this is that paradise, Black paradise for our people, is as simple as simply look around and view it. We're going to have it right here in our lifetimes. We're going to encounter it every single day in our journeys. And it's our job to be able to say, what do I need to break free of so that I can simply look around and view paradise? Embedded in our journeys is the simple act, if you truly wish to be free. This is a vision received, which is what imagination is, right? Imagination is receiving the idea, the vision of what's ahead of us, what could be, what might be. And at the end of the day, a lot of us, kind of like what Harriet Tubman said, I would have freed many more if they knew they were slaves. Many of us are not free when it comes to the realm of our imaginations. And this is what hinders us from receiving visions of paradise. So I want you to be free and liberated in your minds to receive the visions of paradise and to be able to live with the, what does it say? Things that defy explanation. Understand that the vision of paradise is going to define the parallels of this Western construct that we've been living in. It's going to defy the ideas that this space has told us that we're supposed to be abiding by. And if you're going to live in the realm of pure imagination so as to envision Black paradise, you have to be willing to say, I'm going to live in the space that defies easy explanation. I hope that that makes sense. Let me know if it does not. For us as Black people, we've had to rely on the visions, on such visions to continue. We've always had to rely on being on the glimpse of paradise that we haven't, that many of us have not attained within our lifetimes, right? We've always had to rely on that wink of what paradise could look like, of what that mountaintop is for us. And it's been the guiding force throughout all of our history. It's been the most powerful thing that's kept us alive, that's kept us hopeful, the ancestral hopes, the present hopes, the futuristic hopes that we've embedded in the work and embedded in the art forms that we have, and that, yes, we are preserving in our journals. We can't move forward with or towards paradise if we don't preserve these hopes, if we don't preserve the imaginations that we've been given as members of this powerful bloodline. So for your book, and this is what, hold on, move out the way, there we go. For your book, here are some things to consider. Is your imagination pure? Do you know how to guard your imagination? Can you handle seeing things that will defy explanation, or does everything have to fit through your experience or lack thereof? And what will that perpetuate? Can you lay plans without oppression as an impetus? And what I mean here is that, especially when it comes to our people and creating and imagining, sadly, a lot of us tend to wait until violence has occurred in our community before we imagine new worlds. We tend to wait until something tragic has happened before we start engaging our imaginations for something different and for something better. And I want to encourage you to not wait until oppression raises or rears its vileness before you start engaging in your story and engaging your imagination for the worlds that you're meant to create, for your part in creating paradise, right? This is what pure imagination is, right? The purity of imagination is not waiting for violence to prod it to awakening. Those who can see paradise don't have to live it, but they've glimpsed it. Those before us were able to sing Negro spirituals that posited paradise, whether it was framed as Jordan or way beyond, or, you know, by and by. We were able to, those were glimpses that our people were given. And so here and now in our current generation, we need to be able to awaken ourselves and to align in lucidity and with soundness. What is it, what parts of paradise am I able to glimpse, right? You don't have to necessarily be living the ideal, but moments will come in your journey where you'll say, wow, what if this was the case? What if this were true? What if this was the way our world was? What if this was my world? So leave writings that leave those blueprints, that leave those ideas. And I'm sorry, I wish I could, how do I hide this panel? Nope. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, sorry. And then lastly, beware of ways the system camouflages as imagination. So product, content for social media, even laws. Sometimes we credit these things as being very imaginative. We credit these things as being forthright. We credit these things as being new ways into the future, when really they're just another hamster tube that leads to the very same hamster cage. So we got to make sure that that what we're doing actually is, and like the lyrics say, right? I just lost my train of thought. Hold on. Things that defy explanation. If it flows with the tandem of this, of the explanation of capitalism, is it really imaginative? If at the end of the day, there's still white supremacy that's being satiated, is it really imaginative? Is it really a blueprint for paradise? I personally don't believe that Black culture is a product. Black culture it cannot survive if all we're doing is creating products, if all we're doing is supporting these are our people's existence with contents. And if we're relying on the laws of this space, right, we have to puncture out of that membrane and step into the space of the unforeseen, the things that defy the realities and the explanations that have been given to us by capitalism, but been given to us by existing on stolen land and, buying and selling, mechanized by oppression. There's another world outside of that, and it's ecosystemic, and it is culture building. Hold on one second. There we go. All right. So what is journaling? Journaling is the keeping of sentient records. It is the chronological, rhythmic act of you putting your testimony down of the daily life that you are living. It is you testifying to your times, your chapters, your seasons, your generation, and preserving it for the you that's up ahead, as well as for the descendants, those coming after you, right? Here I call it journaling. Later I'll be referencing it as historicizing it. It is a handwritten living witness account, a self-archiving practice that is private. And this is very much so essential to the concept and to the idea of historicizing. Today, many of our practices are so connected to the digital that we don't really understand the beauty and the benefits of being private. But that's a completely different story. But do understand that privacy and paradise are very much so connected, particularly in the idea of paradise being exclusive. Journaling is anti-amnesiac. So I wanted to read really quick from my zine towards historicizing. Which page? Here we go. Page 2. The West thrives on our collective amnesia, keeping us melting in its pot until we forget the beauty of our distinct planetary mandates as Black people, as Black and Brown peoples. Our cultures are vantage points of the atrocities done to us throughout the ages. And when we exercise our literacy and put our thoughts into private writings, we commence to fortify ourselves. But when our written words are diverted to the Western system and we expose our feelings, grievances, ideas, weaknesses, and strategies we have ideated to overthrow it, how can you throw an enemy if you keep publishing books containing your plans? We spiritually and generationally disarm ourselves, but the Western culture has ascribed capital value on our divine expressions, singing, dancing, culture creating, storytelling, history preserving. And because we need to eat and feed our children, we do what we can for the money, selling our words, our books to help make a living. And add to this how our peoples have been conditioned into the broken thinking that we must fight and be integrated with our oppressors and offer our articulation in their language as proof of our humanity. We have been trained to hand over our best in exchange for their poison fruits, including our books, because they have offered us fame in exchange for our secrets, we tell them. But I really wanted to focus on the idea of journaling being anti-amnesiac. And what I mean when I say that is that in this system, particularly, and this connects to creation of paradise, the Western system does not function well with people who have a good memory. Anyone who remembers is considered an enemy in this situation, because nothing can be built. Nothing can be built with a bunch of different peoples if they all collectively remember what their oppressor has done to them. We are beneficial so long as we are beneficial to capitalism so long as we keep on, as long as we are disconnected from our history, so long as we don't remember, so long as we are riddled with amnesia. You can easily build for your enemy when you don't know what they've done to you, when you don't remember what they've done to you. So please understand that it is an anti-amnesiac tool that automatically makes you a mark in this system. Oppression requires myth, and paradise requires history. So journaling prevents the mythology. Ooh, hold on, sorry. Journaling prevents the mythologizing of yourself. It prevents you from getting from point A to point B and asking, how did I get here, right? That is one of the main roots of oppression, being disconnected from how you got here, being disconnected from the situations and the circumstances that were created in one generation that set the stage for today, making you disconnected from the cause and the effect. That's a huge tool of this system, and it's a huge tool of oppression. Oppression functions on myth, right? Paradise functions on history. Keeping our histories, keeping our memories alive, keeping our memories, keeping our histories connected, being able to say, this happened because of this person went through this, and that's why this person engaged this, that's why this happened here, and it caused this, and that's why this over here happened. This is agency, this is authority, being able to make these connections, and authority has the word author within it, right? What else? Paradise requires a library for celebration. There is no celebration without evidence, and that is what our journals are. Paradise is private. We do not dream of coexistence with terrorists. And because our journals are the creation of this exclusivity, the more you remember, the more you pull away from the things that are written as to be the very cause of the oppression of those behind you, of those around you. The difference between journaling and historicizing, quite frankly, for me, is as opposed to dwelling on how you feel and just processing your emotions, you're recognizing with historicizing that you are the plot twist, right? You're not just writing, oh, today was this, I went through this, yeah, and no, I went through this, I realize this is a generational curse. I recognize that this is part of a struggle that I've had for a very long time, and I need to make a change. I need to do this. I need to heal in this area, right? And with journaling, many times, especially with the Western frame of journaling, you're disconnected from your words. You're writing, and then it's like, okay, the archives happen accidentally. It's like, oh, I found these journals from high school. I didn't really know what I wrote and stuff. Whereas with historicizing, the intent is that as you're writing, you are writing to create your future self. You are writing to command your future self. You are completely connected to all of the archives that you are creating. You are writing accounts for your descendants, as opposed to the idea of shame that's usually associated with the idea of journaling. You are writing to form evidence. You are writing to form the body of proof. And as I said, paradise cannot be created without evidence. It cannot be created without a living library that attests to the collective memory that's created by our individual archival memories. So with journaling in the Western sense, the emphasis is on yourself, right? And with historicizing, the emphasis is on those beyond you. So the historicizing practice, it is non-Western. It is directly proportionate to your deprogramming. It is directly proportionate to your understanding that because you are not of these oppressors, right? Because paradise is a separate thing. It is a separate ideal place and space, whether it's in your mind or whether it's physical, right? There's no oppression there, but you first have to recognize what the situation is that's been created by the system of oppression around you. And that involves de-Westernizing. I am not of you. What are the ways in which I have been taught to tell time that is not the way I tell time? Who taught me that this is the way I am? Who taught me that I'm supposed to function like this? Who taught me that I'm supposed to, that I am the Black version of you? See what I mean? The de-Westernization process and the deprogramming process are very powerful. And this is really, for our people, as Black people, this is the way in which we truly historicize. It's the recognition that we are non-Western peoples who have a different way about us, and that commands a different function of how we move through space and time, period. I wanted to read something really quick from my book, really quickly. I have a lot of notes, as I said, and I appreciate your patience. So examples of historicizing and from this perspective, actually, no, let me not do that really. Let me not do that. So yes, the de-Westernization process is really what makes your journal transcend from just a book to a history book. The idea of coming into the knowledge of yourself and the notes made along the way that lets your descendants know, here's the path that he or she carved for themselves to separate from a system that was not built for them, to separate from a system that had been constructing their idea of themselves with its lies. De-Westernizing is the turning away from the lies of this system and awakening to who you are, awakening to the fact that you don't belong here, awakening to the strangeness, the peculiarity of our predicament as Black peoples, being the only people that have to coexist with our oppressors, and building and constructing in a way that turns away from them and creates incubation for ourselves and incubation for our cultural information, so that our culture can be built and thrive. Historicizing does not have to be daily, right? Each season calls us to our books differently. There's some days where you want to write every single day, and there's some days where you want to write once a week, and there's some days where you want to be like, I haven't touched my journal in 6 months, and that's okay. That's okay. The point is, get your words down and make sure to always tell the truth. There is no history that is made up of fictional accounts. And I don't care how painful it is. I don't care how rough it is. I don't care if you have to write every single word down with tears streaming down your face. You must write the truth. You must always write the truth. You are not creating a fictional book. And I wanted to read from this, various ideas of things that you can write to preserve the truth. So what runs in the family and your process and battles to remove it from the bloodline. What's transferred to you spiritually? What entered your soul or mind when you expose yourself to fill in the blank? What does distraction look like for you? When do you get distracted? Tonight's sunset, the process of shedding who you used to be and becoming someone new. Battles in your mind, what you've had to renounce. Culturally exclusive expressions of resilience, joy, grief, love, etc. Conversations with elders. What has freed you? The nature of all you've had to separate from, origins of fears and who or what narrated them into you, reflections on your generation. These are just ideas. These are some examples of what you can put down that keeps your journal truthful. And there was one other things that I wanted to read to you, things you do instead of write. As diarists, the ability to sense and clearly define what our soul is experiencing in a moment is a multi-generational superpower that makes us immortal. Processing our feelings in writing ratifies the journal itself as technology. We download what's being transmitted into our mind and spirit through distinct emotions, then translate them into raw narratorial language. Finally, we define and transcribe our feelings, what they are reminding us of, leading us towards with encoded handwriting. Honest language creates an avatar out of the woman or man that we are in that space and time, who can be revisited and remembered, literally reassembled and resurrected by us and our descendants, reading past journal entries. Hence, shame-induced dishonesty is a wasteful idea to entertain, as it is a disservice to the historicizing futurism of the journaling tradition. Your story mandates truth. Your body carries it. Your journal is a vessel to contain it. There is no paradise without telling the truth. What you fill with impacts how you fill your books, which impacts the efficacy in a Black paradise. If you spend your days watching pornography, if you spend your days doing drugs, these are extremes, right? If you spend your days having negative thoughts or being bitter or being, bitter, being angry, having wrath, storing these things inside of you, whatever you fill yourself with Well, how are you gonna, that will impact what you preserve. That will impact what you write in your journal. It will impact you spending pages getting over being angry versus you spending pages saying, you know what, I've been angry and here is how that is not productive for me. Here's what I need to learn from this. Here's what I need to overcome this in this area. Here's the memories that this is attached to, and here's how I'm gonna move forward. And then in your life, living as in direct proportion to that. That is paradise. That is how we cultivate paradise. Paradise needs those testimonies preserved in these books. It does not need books that are full of just, I've been angry, I am angry, I can't believe he, I can't believe she. We have to transcend that from that. And that's why I say going from journaling to historicizing, it's making the effective books that, yes, can create history. I'm sorry, that can create paradise and that will have a space in paradise. So things you'll need to keep a journal. Your pen, of course. I keep thousands of pens on me at all points in time. I hope you have favorite pens. A blank book. Something that I appreciate about historicizing journaling is its accessibility, because you don't necessarily have to have a journal from Barnes and Noble or even from myself. You can get a notepad from the grocery store or the pharmacy, a composition notebook, a scrap piece of paper. I actually love stenographer notepads. I use one when I'm almost done with the journal, but I don't have time to make a new one for myself. Memory. This is the one. I'm going to read again from my book, but we really have to understand that we live in a system that, as I said, it functions very well because collectively it promotes amnesia. It promotes forgetting what has been and just blazing forward into this disconnected generational future where the testimonies true testimonies haven't been passed from one person to the next to be able to equip a generation to act in response to the history that's been preserved. What works for this system is people who don't remember. It's people who don't know what the syphilis experiments were. It's people who don't know the very last thing Martin Luther King said. It's people who don't know the testimony of Malcolm X, the people who don't know the inventions that our people, the things that our people invented. Collective amnesia is what keeps people in oppression and what keeps us being able to be controlled. So memory, in terms of your journaling, is extremely important to protect, to engage. Many times the missing link in our journal entries is the memories that we need to tap into to fill in what's happening currently in our lives. So from my zine, journaling is all about memories. It's what you're writing down, what you remember based on how you remember it. Hence, it's important to assess how you resolve to remember your life. A compromised memory of the truth of what has been can hold you back, make you miss your season, set you up to go in toxic circles, or create a skewed generational mindset. Tea-stained peoples with good memories are a threat. Tea-stained peoples, that's my nickname for Black and brown people. Tea-stained peoples with good memories, as I said, are a threat to Western culture, which thrives off of those who can't reconcile what has been with what is to make new decisions about the future. Keep your memory preserved by guarding your mind from self-deprecating or bitter thoughts, cultivating and protecting a habit of quietude, and keeping your eyes from violent or hypersexual images or content that taints your mind and fogs your memory. So understand that there are many things in the society that are built, embedded in the very nature of the way things are, whether it's the 140 characters max or the quickness of digital communications that are meant to truncate and impact your memory. So protect it. Stillness and quietude, and this is an orientation. This is the literal act of being hunched over your journal and engaging the thoughts that are coming to you in the quietness, in the stillness. A lot of times you'll find that people are very much afraid of being quiet and being still. There's moments and seasons in our lives where it feels very ineffective to be quiet and to be still, but the visions and the imaginations for what's beyond us and the words that we need to preserve in our books, those things come to us when we're at our quietest and when we are still, and we cannot be afraid those moments. And I said, or not, because sometimes, especially if you're a parent, I'm not, but if you're a parent, if you're at work, if you're working a lot, we don't always have those moments of quietness and stillness to engage, but we can cultivate that on the inside of us, where even in the hullabaloo of the daily vicissitudes of life, we're still able to hear the whisper that says, now look at this, pay attention to that. And even if it's a quick note on your phone, you can still acknowledge, oh, okay, I see. Let me unlock my phone really quick. I think I have other notes. Nope. All right. And then lastly, understanding and honesty. We already touched on honesty, but really the best, I don't want to say the best, a key aspect of our journaling practice is documenting in understanding. It's not enough to just, or historicizing practice. It's not enough to just say, this has happened and keep it moving. This has happened. And then over time, engaging understanding to find out why, engaging things to find out, why have I noticed this? Why do I keep encountering this? You know, why does this person keep behaving this way? Or why is it that I'm always finding myself in this kind of a spiritual headspace or, you know, mindset when I go through this? I need to understand, I have to gain some understanding. The understanding is the foundation of authority. It's not just writing random words and just sending them off into the good night of your pages. It's writing down these words and being able to make them into a cohesive textile and be able to say, and so, and this is why, and this connects with. That's how we function understanding. It's the mechanism of wisdom, honestly. Juanita Harrison. With regards to the accessibility of journaling and the preservation of histories that prognosticate paradise, Juanita Harrison's journal is a very good example of this. She wrote with many times understanding without even recognizing it. She wrote honestly, she preserved her memory. And in her writings, we see how the mundaneness of everyday life is where we can pull the richness of what paradise can look like for us. And I'm going to rephrase that really quick because I really want to help you guys understand. We frame paradise, right? We frame paradise with the things that we engage in our everyday journey. It could be the likes, your likes and your dislikes. It could be a feeling. It can be a memory. It can be a manifesto or a hope that you're documenting. But all of these things are the things that are cultivated in our journals and that lay out the blueprint for what ultimately can be paradise for us. And it's not the main function of our journals, but it's a function of our journals. And specifically with Juanita Harrison, we see this, her lifestyle. So she was a young, they don't really know much about her, but she was a Black woman who freelanced as a housekeeper around the world. She went to about 22 to 30 countries and she traveled for 10 years straight. Her story is amazing. And she kept a journal that she documented in religiously along all of her travels. And when I wanted to pull in an example of what journaling for paradise looks like, she came to mind, and I actually own her journal. And I wanted to read one of her entries from actually February 6th, 1930. So this day in 1930, she was en route to Madrid. We are at the town of Cinco Casas. I have enjoyed the trip. I had a good lunch of boiled chicken, fried meatballs, boiled eggs, radishes, French rolls, fried sweet potatoes, coconuts, sweet cakes, oranges, and a bottle of red wine. I sat in the compartment with 4 very pleasant young men. The fields are green and there are olive groves and many goats, little boy shepherds tending them. She only had a 3rd grade education, and yet she wrote in such she had a very naive style of writing. But the reason why this is important is because it shows, again, the accessibility of journaling towards paradise, right? You don't have to have the best vocabulary. You don't have to have the best grammar. You don't have to have, whatchamacallit, several degrees in writing and English, which is not even our language to begin with, right? To create a useful artifact that is the completed journal. I wanted to read another one, but essentially her journaling over time, you see she's writing about what she appreciates about the world, experiences that make her feel comfortable, experiences that make her feel uncomfortable, and she's curating her life without even knowing it, because in the very end, she ends up living in Hawaii, and she says exactly why she chose it. I'll read it to you. It is July 9th, and I believe this is 1936. Every AM, I go out and gather hibiscus of several shades for the beautiful house before the sun get over the creator. The sun rises over Coconut Head Mountains and shines right in my window. I am right in the playgrounds. Side note, because she had a third grade education, she was a sight speller. So she wrote exactly the way words came to her. This was important because, like I said, because no biographical information is known about her, we're not able to, we don't know where she was from, or really, this is the first picture I ever saw of her, but we are able to place her because of how she sounds in her writing. So an encouragement to you to write exactly how you speak, because it will be the voice that our descendants and that our people have for us in the future in paradise. And two of the picnic grounds, polo grounds, tennis court, and band park. Every Friday evening, I go to one of the high-class hula schools to see the student dance. It's free, and just beyond a large open air pavilion for dancing. That is the only thing I miss from old Antibes. For here, it's only the couples dancing instead of a family gathering of grandma and all dancing. And going off from one cafe to the other, meeting friends, having a little glass of wine, but more to be with friends and having fun dancing. But I have many other things to take place in change of going to Chinese gatherings, because she had been to China, Japanese, she had been to Japan, then Hawaiians. And when I feel Spanish, because she'd been to Spain, there are Portuguese always on Saint days. They have some kind of fete. This is the most wonderful part of the world. And now now that I have about finished my travelers, I feel very happy to have chosen this lovely part of the world. I can swim and have the sand and large brown rocks and the long stretch of coconuts trees. As I write this, my mind travel to Zurich, Switzerland, Zufalo, Israel, Philistine, Sweden, and Madras, Ceylon, and smiling faces stands out before me. I say good morning and eat a nice pineapple, the sweetest that grown. The birds are awakened. I'll soon have to dress. So we see how all of her travels and all of her journaling led her directly to her definition of paradise, which was the aggregation of all of her favorite places. And because she had taken careful documentation of it, she was able to find herself right where she had written herself. Here's some other examples of her journal entries, which I will not read. So when it comes to journaling for paradise, a key aspect of our journaling practice is being a reliable witness, right? So being a reliable witness, if you think about like what it takes to be a witness when it comes to like a court of law or something, you have to be honest. You have to have known what you had seen. You have to have a good memory, and you need to be able to express it clearly. And the same thing applies with our journaling. Be a reliable witness when it comes to living your life and sojourning in your sojourning in your life. Experience things with the mindset that is discerning, with a spirit of wisdom, and be able to say, all right, I'm going to put this down in truth. Regard your times, note where you are in your generation, right? All of these things are is what contributes to you being a reliable witness. A reliable witness how do I say this? A reliable witness knows how to engage their journeys as one who is creating and cultivating a testimony that will indict. And there's going to be more on that later. I spoke on the orientation of stillness and quietude, and that's really what it takes to encounter revelation. Revelation comes to those who are quiet and still and who are able and willing to make significant decisions with their lives as a result of the conviction that has awakened inside of them. And this is a key aspect in veering towards paradise. Paradise is constructed and built and spoken towards by those who have engaged the convictions that have been revealed to them as to how they need to live and how they need to sojourn, right? Quieting yourself is a huge part of keeping our books, of historicizing. It's the act of literally daily subtracting the things that are adding noise to our lives, subtracting the things that are making us unsound in our minds, unsound within, whether it's subtracting ourselves from spaces or subtracting social media from having such a dominant place. This is the journey that it takes, and it does take time. Sometimes it can take weeks, and sometimes it can take months before we've completely oriented ourselves to really be able to hear and to receive. And I wanted to read really quick. There is a posture your life must assume to be spoken to by revelation. Revelation is the heavily inspired word, heavily, as in heavy, that sets another person free. Real revelation goes into a book. You will never find real revelation on social media or digital platforms, period. Examine your thoughts and your imaginations and how you carry yourself. Again, being a reliable witness really comes down to this. You cannot preserve a rightful testimony if your thoughts aren't right. You can't preserve an effective testimony if your imaginations are constantly commandeered. You can't preserve a proper testimony if at the end of the day you carry yourself in a way that is let's say anti your mandate, let's say against your mandate, against the vision that you were born into, against the birthright that you were born into, and only you know what that looks like. Let wisdom have access to you. I spoke on that already, noise reduction, atmospheric selectivity. And then also in terms of preserving and keeping effective historical living books, spot the metaphors and allegories embedded in your life, because really a huge aspect of cultivating paradise is to be able to create the storylines that are going to help instruct and guide those future descendants. Can you spot the metaphors and the allegories in your everyday life? Can you create parables and fables, manifestos, poetry and proverbs that help people, that give people another perspective on how to guard themselves and how to be reliable witnesses for themselves? I believe that images of paradise are revealed to the ones who are able to receive them. And we have to make up our minds that we are going to be those who receive the visions and the revelations of paradise. And that does require a certain conduct in our lives, period. Imagination is a gateway to documenting towards paradise. This is how we've always seen it in our lives. For our people, we don't have the opportunity of really just being like, we're completely free. We've always had to rely very much so on our imagination to cultivate the steps that we take. The hopes of every generation have guided the actions in the next generation, whether it's the hopes that violence towards us would be ended, or the hopes that brutalities toward us would cease, or the hopes of being in a better place, or even the hopes of reparations. It's always been our imaginations that have given us more hope to take another step, more hope to keep hoping as a people, more hope to keep creating even in the presence of our enemies. So What is our imagination specifically? It is the safe image center by which we receive warnings, blueprints, and visions. And these are elements of creating paradise. It is the divine conversations. Divine conversations happen in the silence of our mind, and they are illustrated by our imagination, which is another reason why we have to guard it, right? Imagination is how we are equipped for the future. We're inspired by it, and we are also warned by it, creatively charged to obey what was revealed to us. Paradise is transferred to us as a vision, an idea. The image center is the doorway. Imagination and mind is a private conversation. It's inaccessible to our enemies unless we tell our dreams. Imaginations are made legible with documentation, also known as historicizing, also known as journaling. So we receive the images for paradise. We receive the images for our hopes. Our hopes are illustrated with our imaginations, and the imagination, as I said, is made tangible with when we write. So this is a key component of our journaling practice, making the invisible visible, making the intangible tangible, making the hope come to, making the hope archived, literally, by writing it down. So my foot's falling asleep. Direst conduct. I hope this is all making sense. I hit all the videos, so I don't know if everything is flowing. I really hope it is. And I'm willing for this to be for another time if it's not for this time. Imaging a nation. So hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Okay, we're gonna move forward anyway. All right, so paradise is the cultivation of an inheritance, right? Every generation of Blackness understands this, and hold tight with me, it's gonna all connect back to journaling. The notion of paradise, whether it was Negro spirituals being passed from one generation to the next, the Black Panthers 10-point program being passed from one generation to the next, it's always been the cultivating of things, of ideas, of books, of artworks, of music that ends up being inherited by the next generation. So in order to understand our journaling practice as connected to the cultivation of paradise, we also must understand that we're cultivating something that people coming after us are going to be inherited. So we have to do our parts in our generation with our time allotment, which is another reason why with the journaling aspect, we can't get caught up in the emotions and with the circumstances and with the powerlessness of sojourning. We have a task that we have to apprehend and that we have to stick to so that we can we can cultivate the things, the ideas, the works and the living libraries that the next generation is going to be inheriting. We are leaving ourselves and our lives to be inherited as a narrative and a blueprint. So our lives themselves are the inheritance, and our journals are what confirms that. Our journals are what creates that. We have to operate like we expect the next generation. As I said, and I keep saying this, the Western society needs to have people who don't have memories, who don't make connections between what I do today impacts tomorrow or might be connected to what has already happened before me. So we have to understand that if we are cultivating paradise, there is a generational interconnectivity that we have to acknowledge. And that involves studying history, and it involves conducting ourselves literally, and with the understanding that whoever comes up after me needs to have this, and this to latch onto so they can take their place, right? Part of that is healing, and it's taking account, but also taking accountability for how you are currently living. I don't want to make it sound like it's a rush job, but there is an urgency, because many times, especially like I said, in the Western society, the ideas of childhood and adulthood and different invented chapters of life give us this false notion that we can just linger our way through. And the truth is the fact that we have to urgently find out, what is it that I'm meant to do? What do I have to heal from? What do I need to be accountable for? Who am I being accountable to? What's the vision that I've received? How do I walk in it? How do I move towards it? Look for inheritance conduct. Inheritance conduct means you don't give that which is profound to those who are disqualified. And I don't think any explanation needs to be made for that. Do not squander revelation on social media. Inheritance conduct, the conduct of understanding that you are leaving an inheritance for the next generation, for the future you, means that you don't give the things that have the most meaning, the things of pith and substance, the things that have generational quality, because generation is a technology. It's not just the existence of the next set of beings, it's also the electric creation of you in your present tense, creating for the future, creating for those beyond you. So part of that conduct is literally understanding everyone can't know everything. There's things that are going to come to you that only belong to you because they're for them, they're for then, they're for another time. I hope that makes sense. And along the way, as you're sojourning, you're confirming the vision that you've received, the ultimate vision that you've received, whether it's a faint dream that you might not live to see, or it's an imagination of a Black paradise. Along the way, you're going to be getting confirmations. Document these things, write these things down. We journal the witnesses that we encounter to indicate that we are in alignment to our purpose. Next, understanding that imaging a nation also involves, I was looking at my notes because I realized that I flipped something, but we'll get to that. Your name change. Your generational assignment may not know you by this name. And what I mean by your name change is not necessarily a literal name change. What I actually mean is understanding your function within your generation, and sometimes even being called away from where we are. How do I explain this? The people around you, the city that you're in, the literal place that you're in knows you by a certain conduct. And many times changing our place or making a departure from what's familiar to us and what's familiar in us and what we're familiar to is what makes us step into our true function. The pilgrimage, the migration that we take on to say, I'm going to step away from this geography or this setting that has consistently defined me. I'm going to go based on the vision that I've received for who I am, that thing that defies explanation, that unusual thing that makes me feel very uncomfortable, but it's something that I have to obey and migrate towards. That's something that changes your name. And that oftentimes is what makes it so that we can start having dialogues with purpose. I have here pictures of Freedom Colony founder, Freedom Colony founders Frank and Ella Boyer. They founded the city of Blackdom, New Mexico. And when you read the visions for many of the people who founded the freedom colonies across America during that time period, it really was the function of the function of inheritance. It was the conduct of inheritance. It was the idea of, we have a vision of this kind of a space, of this kind of a place where we can flourish like this, and we're going to leave it for our children. We're going to have safe places for our children. So I believe that this is very much so. If you are able to study it, go ahead. But it mimics the conduct that we must have as those who are keeping our journals. Imaging a nation. Understand, and I'm sorry, I was supposed to have a picture here. Forgive me. Images of paradise are activated by words, and they're framed by them too. Was I supposed to say this? Hold on 1 second. All right, hold on. Here we go. Believe the vision that you've glimpsed and let it narrow your path. A lot of times, the moment you have a glimpse of what paradise is, it's gonna start making certain people pull away from you, and it's gonna start making other people gravitate towards you. It might be a very lonely road for a very long time. Be okay with that, you know, because you're not living for right now. Sojourn as one who believes the vision that you've received. What is your generational conduct? What are things that you have to keep and not keep, be around, not be around, in order for you to stay true to what you've seen? This is a key aspect of one who is aligning themselves for paradise. Do not fight or become an ardent defender of that which is not your inheritance. This is one of the main traps of capitalism. It will have us being loyal to things that are not for us. It will have us being faithful participants to things that are not, that have no intention of freeing us. And it will make us evangelists, so to speak, for the very things that ultimately will lead to our deaths as a people. So understand that part of you walking in the image, your imagination, the imaging of a nation, is you understanding what you are not meant to fight for, because you are choosing to focus on what's beyond you, what you've received as the ultimate vision for your bloodline, for our culture. Be ready to change your geography and your name. I spoke on that. And understand that the very terms for it is in your journey. So your continuance, and based on this vision that you've received, is what creates paradise and is the source of everything that you're, and is the content of your book. It's in the vision of those who came before you and the code you still have left to decipher, the code you still have left to decipher in their words and works. So we'll get to that later. All right, this is what I was staring at. So here's some examples of Black imagination that had ideas and elements of paradise to it, and that has ideas and elements of paradise to it, whether it's T. Granville Woods, the inventor, or even the faint idea of Dizzy Gillespie for president, voting for Huey P. Newton, the utopia of 5 generations returning to Africa, written by Lillian Jones, Marcus Garvey's Black Star Line, the New African Republic. Imagination has the terms in its word: image, a nation. So what has access to your image center is the nation that you will build. Let me unplug this. Here we go. Images are generated with words, not other images. What images are guiding what you are perpetuating? That's a question to ask yourself, and a question that we have to engage in our journals. Beware the commandeered imagination guided by a system that hates you. One of the elements of a commandeered imagination is not understanding that we as Black people are the originals, not understanding that we are the first, right? A lot of times we operate in the mindset that sadly, many times, that white supremacy is functioning in this original idea, and that we're functioning in this original idea. And part of de-Westernizing is understanding that you are the original and that they're copying you. It's understanding, and that's a huge aspect of shaking off our commandeered imaginations. A commandeered imagination is also expressed as imagining anything and everything except the overthrowing of the terrorizers that are at large, right? Appreciating your butchered history and not really delving to fill in the gaps, to make decisions of authority and agency. Reporting your insights on social media, that is a commandeered imagination. Making a product of your journey, that is a commandeered imagination. Or assuming that your culture is directly proportionate to creating products. That is a commandeered imagination. And again, a commandeered imagination affects the nation that you are building for, which whatever is in your, whatever images are guiding you, that is the nation that you are building for. So ask yourself, what images are in my mind? Who has told me fill in the blank? And is it really helping me to build my nation, or am I building someone else's? Is it helping me build towards my paradise, or are my actions with these questionable sources in, are they building someone else's paradise? Ask yourself that along the way. Becoming the image set before you, and images create followers and words command descendants. One of the reasons why this society is so image heavy is for that reason, because we are guided by images. Naturally, it's a human thing. So a huge component of activating a pure imagination is shutting yourself off from images that are only going to lead you back to this oppressive system, and allowing yourself to be spoken to by wisdom and revelation, but also speaking to your generations so that they are guided by your words and they're not available to have their imaginations commandeered. I hope that makes sense. This is why our journals are extremely important. So here's some journaling prompts for your book. I'm not going to read them all, but essentially, are you willing to create for the unborn? Do you know how to preserve your spirit and soul from being tainted for generational integrity? What are the gifts you have that paradise needs? Can you reconcile them with being hidden from this system's clout? A lot of times we're so quick to turn directly to the system that is oppressing us and that hates us and doesn't hide it, because we want that validation, because we appreciate the validation and the compensation that come from this system. But at the end of the day, it's subtracting from what belongs to the future descendants and what also belongs to the cultivation of paradise, right? So is your physical location hindering you from receiving images of the nation you should be perpetuating towards? What is the inheritance you're cultivating and how? Journal your lessons in cultivating paradise, whether it's gardening, herbalism, hospitality. There's certain elements in your own gifts, whether it's tech, whether it's artistry, whether it's being a psychologist, whether it's being an herbalist. All of these things are things that are strengthening you to contribute to, whether it's that future Black paradise or to lay the blueprints for that. Your gifts are giving the instructions, and you're documenting them within your own journey is what's giving the instructions for that ultimate paradise. So basis for imagining. Let me make sure I'm in my proper place. Give me 1 second. All right. The first base is your own journey. Look for patterns, keep the documents to frame paradise, even your nightmares. Write the journey. This is one of the bases for your imagination. Look for patterns in your life. Document yourself. This is going to help feed and inspire your imagination. It's in your history, our history, Black history. Paradise has a memory, and together we form it. So in writing and engaging Black history, you're able to imagine new worlds. That's something I experienced, imagining new worlds, imagining what could be, and to hop back onto the journey aspect of it. Writing your daily life should feed your imagination. Writing your narrative, writing your living witness testimonies should feed your imagination to dream differently about yourself, to hope differently for yourself. In terms of history, the very same thing. When you read about people like George Washington Carver or Nat Turner or Sojourner Truth or Harriet Tubman or Ida B. Wells, your imagination should be quickened to, okay, now what do I need to create to keep that train of thought going? What do I need to create to keep that assignment, that blueprint alive? So these are ways that we quicken our imagination. And then lastly, it's in your code. I wrote down here, as Black people, we don't have the option of not being around our enemies. So we have to get creative with talking while being around them. So we can't afford to be entertained when our work is communicated. Code or command it's communicated. Code and command is the signal to us. So understand this. This is something that has been used against us for years, whether it was in the 70s to even now with social media and with memes and reels and TikToks and whatever. It's getting us to dissociate from the mandate and the code of our communication, and instead to be entertained. And I've often broken down the word entertainment into enter and taint, because when you're entertained, you're in many ways demilitarized, your defenses are down, and because your defenses are down, there's things that are able to get into you, into your subconscious, into your imagination, that can do a bunch of frustrating work and make it so that you're not able to pick up and be effective in a moment or be effective in the future. So understanding that being able to pick up and translate code of a moment should keep you on your path, should keep you aligned, and should keep your imagination vigilant for what you're intended to create, what you're supposed to be doing towards paradise, what your assignment is, the inheritance you're meant to be cultivating. Do not be entertained out of it. Do not allow this society to make you laugh when you should be being serious. Do not let this society have you swindle you into laughing at proverbs, or being entertained by a prophecy, or being how do I say this, like giggling at ourselves, when at the end of the day we're supposed to be receiving and communicating very, very heavy, weighty things that need to be preserved, translated, codified, and then shifted to the next generation, but also obeyed. Code is left as public artifacts for all, but with messages available to those available to translate. Paradise requires the ones who could translate its code before paradise was entered, such as our ancestors. Write your translations of code. So real quick, an exercise. One of the biggest pieces of code that I've noted was the movie The Wiz. If you've watched the movie, perhaps you've seen that the film is actually a code for Black people on how to conduct themselves in the Western predicament that we find ourselves in. Whether it's understanding that first and foremost, home is within us because we were displaced from our original homes, or understanding the easing on down the road, but we'll get to that. So my phone keeps locking. All right, we're good. So when it comes to this scene with the scarecrow, one of the main messages I felt that this was for is speaking to the Black person who's living in the projects, living in what's been known as the ghetto, living in detrimental environments that have been created by this system to keep us down, to keep our imaginations suppressed. And we see that with how the scarecrow was his whole conduct and his whole situation. He was a product of his environment. Look who was speaking to him. Look at what they were saying. The idea of, didn't we tell you that you can never get down? Didn't we tell you that you need to stop investing in your intelligence? How many of us experienced, some of us, I don't know, many of us, I know I did, the act of our own people telling us that being intelligent is a form of being white, right? And discouraging us from expanding our ken, so to speak, expanding ourselves, because it made them feel uncomfortable. Ultimately, they would never say that. They would tell us that we were not being true to the culture, because we were expanding who we were, because we were learning more, because we were letting words quicken our imagination into ways that made us strange to them, and that cultivated a fear in them that they wanted to quickly truncate. So to me, this scene really was showing the power of being a product of your environment, the negative thinking that surrounds you, the crows around you whose safety and whose conviction is suppressed so long as you believe them, right? As long as he believed that he couldn't win, they were able to eat the corn and they were able to get away with their stuff. But the moment he started engaging thoughts of what if I left, it unsettled them. And we have to understand that for us as Black, for us as a people, it has the same impact many of us have seen, whether it's in our lives, but especially to the crows, that is the terroristic society of whiteness that also surrounds us. The moment we orient ourselves to stop believing them, it unsettles them. And we have to be able to understand that connection. What is the anthem that, not the little national anthem, although, anyway. What is the anthem that has kept you where you are? Whose rules do you abide by, and who told you? Coming to the place of asking, who told me? That is a very powerful, authoritative thing. Stop believing those whose success is tied to your oppression without you realizing it. This is a cultural thing. This is an individual thing. Many times the breaking of a generational curse so that you can head towards paradise, so that you can do your part in cultivating paradise, that is usually tied to you recognizing that other people have been made to be very comfortable so long as you're believing a lie about yourself, so long as you're operating underneath the spell of these lies. We know that in this scene, Dorothy is the one who came in and said, I'll help you. And so many of us have to also ask, are we the Dorothy that someone needs to call out the lies of the crows and to say, stop believing them, focus on me, let's do this, let's get you out of here. Next, Ease On Down the Road. I love this song. It's so full of just a very, very joyful, convivial code. Which it speaks a lot to how whimsy with imagination, because a lot of times people think imagination and fun and whimsy don't need to have substance. And I believe that the whimsical and the imaginary, they require substance in order for them to be an effective piece of code, as is this song, or as is this moment even. Paradise is purpose, and it comes with ease. That's one of the key messages that I took from this. Your mandate is a means of encountering Black joy, being where you should be in and on time. And we cannot capitalize or mythologize Black joy. It is code, it is echolocation. Being where we're supposed to be and operating in our purpose is how we find others who are doing the very same thing, right? If we try to be enamored with, and we allow the system to have us capitalizing on, Black joy, whether it's the function or the literal thing, it's almost like picking up those yellow bricks and starting to sell them off. Ooh, yes, this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. Here's what being in purpose, here it is as a product. That's a lie. That's a trap of capitalism. Always trying to make a product of things that are extremely generationally sensitive, that are generationally mandatory. Making a product out of that, it keeps you from creating purpose. And ultimately the consistent selling of the yellow bricks that make up your path is going to make it so that those behind you can't follow you, and it's going to make it so that eventually you won't even know where you're going. I hope that makes sense. Ease on down the road, also speaking to focus, right? Speaking to stay exactly where you're supposed to be, stay exactly towards the vision that you were born into, the birthright that you were born into. The lyrics, don't you carry nothing that might be a load. There may be times when you think you lost your mind, but keep on stepping and you'll be just fine. It speaks to the reality that ease is not utopia. And that even if it was, it does not negate the fact that there will be hardship. And that's a huge thing when it comes to our cultivation of paradise. The idea that we can't negate the necessity and the requirement of hardship in making us, in shaping us, and in helping us encounter the things that we need to encounter along the way. As you can see, the hardship that Dorothy experienced helped her to get her crew, so to speak. And for us, many of the things that we've gone through have helped us encounter the ones or the resources that we need for our lives and for our journeys. And journaling, also historicizing, helps us to keep track of these chapters, to keep track of the components of our journey, and over time seeing, but you see, because this happened, I was able to see this, I was able to have this, I was able to cultivate this relationship, or I was able to see the beauty of this. All of this is necessary. Proverbs of warning coupled with encouragement. Put these in your journal. I don't believe that a vision for paradise can be created if all it does is speak to the positive. You have to understand that your vision for paradise is going to also teach you how to embed your writings with warnings for the next generation. It's going to cause you to say, now on your way here, beware of this trap, beware of this lie, beware of this set of ideas. This is going to be very much a temptation right here. Don't do it. Stay on the pathway. There's no blueprint for paradise that comes without warning. Next message: be a lion. Not long after surviving the attack in the metro, the lion and Dorothy are poisoned by the poppies, and to me it was a very seminal moment because it shows how almost immediately after, many of us have experienced this too, after having a victory in our journeys, you'll be attacked spiritually, or find that that's when things start happening, right? When stuff starts going right. And it's the understanding that that's a spiritual law in very many cases. And yet the purpose of us as a community or as beings of purpose is to be able to encourage one another. So you saw with Dorothy telling him, you're standing strong and tall, you are the greatest, because he had actually attempted suicide in this scene. It also lets us know what we are meant to be towards one another on this path. We are meant to, in very many ways, save one another's lives. We are meant to be an encouragement to one another because we understand that the mechanics of operating in imagination and going towards paradise is riddled with vices, is riddled with temptations, it's riddled with moments where we might think we've lost our mind. It's riddled with moments where we may even fail, and we have to be willing to be there for one another and to encourage one another to keep walking, to walk good, as we say in the West Indies. And that was a piece of code definitely left in this film. With Emerald City, we see the questioning of, even in this society, who's the man behind the big voice? And we could say something here about the function of religion and Blackness, but we're not going to. I don't want to offend anyone this Sunday morning. But asking what has mechanized the things that you believe, whether it's spiritually or about the world around you. Do you follow challenges and trends as opposed to recognizing the power of originality and creating and cultivating an original thing as directly proportionate to you creating this distinction that will lead you to paradise? And then of course there's the line, you've got to have old gold. I thought that was a very interesting code for building generational wealth, because we all know that gold is the highest standard, right? And then finally, can you feel a brand new day? So in this scene, we see how the dancers, it's not visible here, but one of the first things that's seen is the dancers stripping themselves of the ugly costumes that they were wearing, and underneath they see something very beautiful. And for this movie and this point of time, the code that was here was the message that for years we had been told we were ugly, we were nothing, we were worthless, we were we shouldn't be on magazine covers and stuff like that, which I don't really agree with, but that's another story. We were told always like how that we were animals, that we were ugly, that we, were the scum of the earth. And that moment where they're peeling off these costumes was code for the brand new day, is understanding that you are beautiful. It's understanding that all of that was a lie, stripped from that lie. And so the question is, can you decipher false narratives that have placed your life in servitude to a system that is enslaving you? I think that says a lot. Call to know, the song itself, the code behind, can you feel a brand new day, is the call to know how to move on now that old has passed. A lot of times what disqualifies one generation from being effective to the next generation is not being able to know when it's a new day, not being able to know when the old has passed and when it's time to stop functioning in the old way and function in the revelation of the new day, functioning in the terms of, we understand this has happened, we see this has happened, we've experienced this, but we got to move on now. We got to build something new. We have to create and construct based on a pure imagination, based on a new vision. and move forward towards that. And we can't, certain things in our past, we can't reference in obeisance. We have to reference them in agency and authority. It has happened, but this is what we're going to do now. Here's the conduct. Next. Okay. Can you function in the terms of a new day? Can you step into a new day? One of our callings as diarists, as people who are living witnesses and preserving living witness accounts, is to be able to be watchers, right? To be able to feel a brand new day, is to be able to say, the sun is rising. The sun is rising. And that's the function of a watcher in a city or in a in a camp. The ones who would keep the watches would be the ones who would be able to say, it's a new day. The sun is rising now, first light, you know? So to be able to orient yourself like that in your generation, to be able to say, it's a new day. That's a place of authority, being able to acknowledge this has happened and this has happened. All right, it is now a new day. Sorry, I have something behind. It is a new day. It's time for us to function a new day. That's the authority of a living witness. Ugh, my moisturizer got in my eye. I'm sorry, guys. Telling the terms of a new day. Often generations have a hard time realizing that they are disqualified from crossing over because they didn't do their part in their generation, which is why we have to not allow the present moments of these times to distract us from our duties, because a new generation is rising up and they're going to ask us, what did you leave for us? What did you preserve for us that we can utilize in our times? And we should have something. We should have the books written. We should have the conclusions. We should have the metaphors. We should have the parables. We should have the proverbs that are like, yes, here it is. Here's your blueprint right here. I have it for you. Everything you need to know about functioning in this system, about guiding in this system, and about your part in constructing paradise, it's already written here. And it is the pleasure of this system to keep us from being able to do that. And we have to resist that. And we have to choose to be able to step outside of it in many ways, right? Step outside of it in many ways so that we can be able to identify the new day and function in accordance to it. You will miss a new day by idolizing the power of what used to oppress you. We see this many times in our culture, and it's very sad. Many times we want to function with the very same framework of white supremacy because something in us thinks that because it was powerful enough to suppress us, that it must be powerful in us for us to use its elements to move forward, and we can't do that, right? You don't move forward into a brand new day by utilizing the very things that oppressed you as a structure. You got to burn the whole thing down. You have to understand what you've been called to step into, and the terms of that newness. You do not need to reference oppression to build paradise. That's one of the biggest lies, as I said. Utilizing, whether it's religion or capitalism or anything like that, your imagination, the vision that's been revealed to you, if you follow according to what's been given to you and you keep that and you stay true to that mandate, you will build something that has not been seen yet. You will write something that has not been, that has never been read before. You will be able to preserve a message that can quicken the next generations, even if it's the next generation of you, in a way that puts you in a completely different space, right? That's what it means to walk into a brand new day. We have to know exactly what to forget and what to remember so that we can cultivate paradise. And we do this also with our journals. Another element of code, the Negro spirituals. So this was a song that was sung when Harriet Tubman would be nearby. They would sing this to let her know, don't come today. Swing low, sweet chariot, Harriet. I learned this last year and it sent chills down my spine. We also see the reference of paradise here, singing. And remember, I told you that an element of code is being able to transmit meaning even in the presence of your enemies. So looked over Jordan, and what did I see? We see Jordan reflected a lot of times in the lyrics, that in our song lyrics. Swing low, sweet chariot coming to carry me home. This is an element of code speaking towards paradise. Can we decipher this? Can we preserve this? Can we do the same things in our day? We must. Have you been listening? There's code transferred into music. So some of these lyrics the songs right here to the right of the screen. They are present day, meaning recent eras, examples of code that is sending out a message to our people to respond to with the gifts we have, with the era that we were born into, with what's available to us, taking these things and being equipped to say, okay, here's another way in which I have to move forward towards creating and cultivating paradise. All right. When you catch the code in the things such as above, it's our job to preserve it. One of the main tools of capitalism is getting us to shrug off the depths that we encounter as just mundane and not taking it seriously enough to archive it for the next generation. The next generation needs to know that we were able to decode messages and leave them with their meanings so that they can in turn turn around and do whatever coding that they need to do to leave to the generation after. Paradise still needs those who can decode the signs. Paradise is not the idea of utopia without weight to it. It's not some ideal imaginary space that doesn't need those with the backbone to be able to still call out the how do I say this? Paradise still requires those who have, who are able to carry weighty, heavy messages. It's not the dissociation from that. It's not, we don't get unburdened from carrying the burden of this generational duty just because we're cultivating paradise. There's no mindless observing and there's no passivity. We arrive to one aspect of paradise when we awaken to the urgency of our predicament, when you awaken to the fact that the situation we're in as Black people is a significant and a peculiar one. It should cause you to preserve differently. It should make you move differently. It should make you appreciate privacy differently. It should make you write differently, historicize yourself. It becomes mundane and myth when you shrug it off. I think I just said that. A lot of times the heavy words that come into our spirit or that come into or visit our imaginations, we wait so long to write them down, or we just we overthink them, or we try to use present day reasoning when really it's for our future descendants to decode, and it turns something that's come to our mind into something that is now useless because we've overthought it, or we refuse to write it down, or we refuse to turn it into a chapter or make it an assignment to break it down as a riddle. You don't need to get human confirmation for everything. Understand that sometimes when you break down a code for something, when you are able to get an idea or revelation, don't turn and ask someone, well, what do you think about this? Don't post it on social media and have a bunch of people commenting and liking on it. No, like some things are for then. So here's some things to write for your book. And again, I can share this presentation so they can be available. These are the, I guess, journaling prompts. I don't appreciate that word, that phrase, but here it is. Do you need to detox? Healing is delayed by an undisciplined diet. Stop feeding it so your eyes can see paradise. Whatever you're dealing with, whatever vices that it is, whatever addictions, whether it's to a digital platform or to drugs on that spectrum or whatever, deal with whatever you're feeding that's keeping you from being healed, which is also keeping you from seeing your vision for paradise. Is your imagination activated, or do you just or do you just want what you see? A lot of times our immediate desire to be accepted and validated by this society keeps us from truly engaging our imagination so that we can just get and attain a quick validation. Are you patient? Do you abandon things because they don't praise or entertain you? Do you confuse imagination for fantasizing? Fantasies are unproductive. Nightmares are productive. And I've realized this earlier this week. When it comes to the forming of Black paradise, fantasies are not productive at all. It's the idea, it's these imaginary ideas that never puncture into the realm of action. They stay fantastical. They stay with this, oh, I wish ideology framing them. And you have to understand that nightmares are usually warnings. The things that you don't want to happen, that's more productive than you saying, here's an idea that's great, but it might never happen. Does that make sense? I hope so. Your nightmares, when it comes to forming paradise, your nightmares are more productive than your fantasies. Get rid of fantasies, heed the nightmares, and create the terms for paradise. Finally, or we're getting there, paradise is, here's the definition, and I looked it up because I was like, oh, I didn't really think about like what paradise actually means. And when I looked it up, I was very shocked to find out that it's actually defined as a place where righteous people await judgment day. I was like, okay. And then of course it's a place of bliss, felicity, and delight. And I was like, okay, if we're gonna go towards paradise, what do you mean judgment day? And I realized that back to being a witness, right? The only way that we can prepare for paradise as a people is really, or to cultivate paradise in our times, is to be righteous living witnesses. Righteous meaning doing the right things, not a religious sense. Being a living witness, as I said earlier, being reliable, being honest, preserving the right testimonies, preserving the truthful testimonies. These is how we prepare. Preparing for paradise is preparing to indict. I wrote something down that I wanted to read to you. Paradise is prepared for by becoming a witness and guarding the existence of being a living witness and cultivating your testimony in your lifetime, in your generation. For us, there is no paradise. For Black people, there is no paradise without justice. Justice is achieved with witness testimony. Are you a living witness able to preserve such a testimony? Thus, the prerequisite to entering paradise or creating the foundations for paradise is to be fluent in the ways of indictment. There is no bliss without knowing that there has been justice, and justice requires a testimony that confirms it. This is the essence of paradise for Blackness. There is no paradise that is not founded first by the conviction of what we have been through as a people and the indictment that we must exist within that constantly convicts those who are set against us. Who can envision paradise? Those with sound minds, pursuing the protecting your sound mind helps you to envision paradise. Those that are uncyborged by whether it's situations, whether it's the literal technologies and the devices in this society. One of the key aspects of this system is to get you to be a cyborg in some way, because a cyborg is not a completely human being. And for you to be incomplete in your humanity means that you're no longer capable of receiving the conviction that has you operating in your generational mandate, which part of it is cultivating your part in the testimony towards paradise, right? So understanding that, keep yourself from being the cyborg. You need your memory, you need your sound mind, you need to be able to focus and to have an attention span, you need your literacy, you need your understanding. All of these things are things that help you create the testimony that indicts. You need a pure imagination. You need to be unfettered by fear, a vision that doesn't depend on violence. We spoke to that. If you only envision paradise because life has gotten violent, then that's not paradise. If your imagination is only quickened when something negative has happened to you, that's not imagination. Learn to envision these things without being mechanized by negativity. You need discernment. Be able to discern truth from lies, good from evil, hell from paradise. Many of us, especially in this system, the lines are blurred between these two. And to be able to write down the terms for paradise, be able to keep books that are alive in your history, books that are alive as history books. In order to properly historicize, you have to be able to delineate the characters of both and to walk in that truth. And understand that there will always be counterfeits, and being able to even document what those counterfeits look like. You need wisdom, you need patience, you need love, you need quietude, you need discretion, because everyone cannot come and everyone can't know what, excuse me, what your vision of paradise is, what your vision of paradise includes, what it entails. Paradise and privacy are fused by the act of historicizing. And I had some notes here. Enjoy these images of me living overseas in New Zealand for 5 months. All right. Paradise is a mandate, and we must do our part within it in order to achieve it, in order to activate it, in order to walk in it. Unholy clout will derail of people's vision of paradise and will make us mules or machines for building another's paradise instead of our own. Beware the dumbing down of paradise visions to accept a mutant form of now. A lot of times you'll find that the visions or the imaginations that you have for paradise, the visions that you get for that distant by and by, for the beauty that could lie ahead of you, you'll find that if you speak on them too soon, or even if you don't, the attack will often be dumbing it down. You know, the idea of, I've been to the mountaintop, and then, well, have I really seen what that could entail? Have I really seen what paradise could look like? Or is it just, you know, because the current circumstances are saying this, because currently this is the way my life is looking. Maybe I didn't see what I saw. Maybe I wasn't really, maybe that's just crazy. Maybe I was just talking crazy. No, understand that the vision of paradise will always come with that kind of attack. And that's why you have to preserve it with your writings. Do not let capitalism buy your vision, your blueprints, or access your imagination. Oftentimes, this is one of the main reasons why the people that are supposed to be creating paradise in our day and age and our times are incapable of doing so, because they're selling it for money. They're selling it for clout, they're selling it for attention, they're selling it to be validated by a system that hates them. And because of that, we're losing the revelation that's supposed to be informing our journeys towards paradise. We're losing the insights that belong in our libraries, that belong in our living books. And instead we're shipping them out and off to be abused and bastardized by a system that is only going to violate them and weaponize them against us, right? Images of paradise that you receive from the words that come to you are worth more than gold. Preserve them. Do not buy into the temptation that, you know, oh, I can get, you know, such and such clout or such and such treatment if I just speak on this thing that I've seen. Revealing truth before it's time, revealing a vision of paradise before it's time, can also lead to oppression. It is generationally irresponsible. It is ancestrally irresponsible to give things that are for your descendants to those who are disqualified from even sitting at the same table as you. To award terrorists with your revelation is irreverent. Keep it analog. And understand that paradise is not reclined into, it is efforted towards. Paradise is not the idea of when we get there, we're going to be chilling out. It's not the idea of, as I think about this, all I can think of is, it's just going to be all over one day. That's not the vision of paradise. The vision of paradise is understanding that rest that we want is earned. We are not slaving. However, we're operating within the terms of our mandates to usher in paradise. That's our job. That's our duty in our generation. That is not a task that should be work. That's a task that should be work, but should not be wearisome. Weariness is work without harvest, and sojourning or journeying soulfully is life that lays a foundation. We should be visionaries. We should be telling the times. We should be making predictions and tasking ourselves with generational duties. This is the function of those who anticipate paradise. Journaling is how we chronicle the methods and fruits of our labor. It's proof to future ourselves or our descendants that we've done our part. All proof should be written. Living witness testimony first testifies to the one claiming to have done their part. Chronology is a witness, as is our handwriting. Here's some other things for you to write. Are you willing to be useless to this system? Do you fear being irrelevant to the system's celebrations, or do you require validation? Examine these things as you walk towards creating and cultivating paradise. Paradise is created by those who understand that they are first and foremost must not be relevant to a system of oppression. In order to be relevant to paradise, you have to be relevant. You have to be irrelevant. You have to abdicate your seat at their table so that you can build yours, even if it's just the blueprints. Can you see it? Write it and write towards it, and live in obedience to the mandate that's caused you to hold on to. It takes time and dedication to this. It's a journey preceding and receiving images of the portion of paradise you're meant to build, lay foundations for, prophesy about, etc. Be patient with yourself. It's your lifetime. It's your lifetime assignment, whatever it looks like, however it comes together for you. Understand that you are laying that foundation, and it's going to take time. Be dedicated to that. Imagination does not mean imaginary. So write down and document any way that maybe you've confused imagination for the imaginary. Have you forgotten that imagination literally means that you are imaging a nation, and that you are receiving the words that are going to create the images in your mind and in your soul and in your spirit? They're going to help you build towards this nation, build towards paradise, build towards this moment where you're functioning in bliss, but also functioning in indictment, right? And finally, enjoy writing your life library. And that's it. Blessings. Let me stop sharing screen. Here we go.
Wow.
I hope that made sense. I know that was a lot, y'all.
It was, but it was so needed and so timely and so.
I hope that as I was talking, I was like, you know what, this was definitely where I was led to speak to, and I'm trying to see anything else in my notes, but yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just want to say
here's
thank
some
you for sharing and contributing. I mean, that was beyond my expectation. I mean, I knew you were gonna, go off, but I mean, really, I'm so grateful. Thank you. And I'm glad we recorded this, because I'll definitely be reviewing this. It'll be on our website. And you could probably also share it on yours too, but this is, thank you. If anybody has any comments, questions, feel free to
please
ask and share. Thank you again, honestly.
Of course, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, for letting me posit this exploration. I think someone has a question.
Where's
Is it Gigi?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, I just want to say that was so beautiful.
Thank you very much. Wait, is this Regine?
Yes.
How are you?
Oh, just so powerful. Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Have any questions? I feel like you basically, you came and cracked the whip. That's what you did. You sure did, girl. You came and cracked the whip. Girl, you sure enough did. Look at you.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be able to that's the case. I never want to communicate. I didn't want to communicate the idea of paradise without the reality of mandate as well. And I'm glad that came across. I really am. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I actually had a question. So I'm a writer, and I'm just curious, do you have any recommendations of separating kind of historicizing versus my writing? I want to try and make the practice of keeping it separate from my journal, and really just for the things that of processing, I keep that for my journal. but with my writing, do you recommend almost like for my book and stuff like that, putting that in digital format just so there's a separation?
I would say that whenever you're called to write something, you have to first determine what's meant for you and what's meant for your generations, what's meant to be kept for them, and then what you are being released to put out into the world. Because whatever goes into a book will be picked up by friends and enemies. So and whatever's in a book helps people, or how do I say it? Basically delineate, use journaling, historicizing to process what belongs to you versus what can be put in a book that will be published, right? And that journey, let it take as long as it needs to, because a lot of times I think that the temptation is, oh, that was so good, I can't wait to, and it's like that moment is usually defining for you what has no business leaving the book. Right? So let that happen and let that process and that journey unfold itself for you, and you will be released to release certain things, and you will be convicted as to what to keep to yourself for your future self or for future generations. But take that very seriously, because once a book is published, it can't be unpublished, and capitalism doesn't necessarily it doesn't require substance. It can't handle that substance. So don't put generational messages in a book that's going to go into the public space. Generational messages should be private, and they should be for your eyes, for your descendants' eyes, for your future selves' eyes. I can't really say that enough. But definitely, even when I was publishing my zine, there was moments where I was like, okay, who is this for? And I think that right now, even in your practice, asking yourself, who does this belong to? Can this, and knowing that your book is going to be published, being able to say, how do I code this so that the message gets out to my people, even though it has to be read by everyone? And also understanding who it is that you're writing to and the function of the book that you're writing. What's the book's purpose? Is the book's purpose to quicken and to awaken and to equip, or is it to inform? But because you're in the skin that you're in, because of the skin that we have, we don't have very many options with regards to what it is that we put out into the world. It has to convict, it has to awaken, it has to give blueprints for those who are beyond us to do their part in laying down the foundations or building up on paradise. And there was something else that I wanted to say just now. It'll come back to me, but I hope that helps.
Definitely. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I just wanted to say thank you, Shemaine, for doing this. It's awesome. As always, it's like blowing my mind, and I'm so happy.
I'm glad. It's good to hear from you, and plus, thank you very much. Thank you.
Was there anyone else that had any more questions? We're gonna try to wrap up at 1, but stay tuned for well, first, are there any more questions? Okay, we have a bunch of events and activities that are involved in this project. This has just been the latest, maybe the greatest, but next week we have a rock climbing event, March 6th, I believe it is. Kim, was that the correct date?
Yeah, so you just said next month, right?
Next month, forgive me.
Yes. Yes.
March 6th, we have another event, but Shameen will, first of all, I feel like I'm mispronouncing your name and I didn't know that. Apologies for that.
It's okay.
Another journaling workshop that you'll be hosting, I forget the date again.
Tuesday, the 8th.
Okay.
So everyone here, please, you saw what it was. Tell people about it. Like this needs to be heard. So or come back. We'd love to have you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we close out, I also just wanted to let y'all know that, the Black Paradise Project is ever evolving, and we will probably have a number of more events in the future over the next few months. So I really encourage you to check in with our website. On our events page, we list all of the upcoming events. And I'm sure it's lots of things that people might be interested in or feel like might really give them life. So again, thank you so much for being here. And we really encourage you to keep attending the events that we're throwing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, all of you. Thank you for believing in me with doing this. Again, it was a journey. I know this was a little bit rough today's, but I really do appreciate you guys listening and staying along with me with this. And I hope that you're all encouraged to be careful guardians of your lives and your chapters and your journeys, and to put these things into your books, because it's participation in your generation. It's the faith in your mandate and in your purpose, and it's preventing yourself from being a myth. So yeah, journey soulfully. Everything is for a reason, and yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been absolutely so valuable, and I feel like all of us are benefiting from learning from you today and the wisdom that you've taken from your ancestors and our ancestors. So again, thank you.
Yeah, peace. Thank you. Love you all. Blessings.
And we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Yes.
Take care.
Yes. Thank you. You too. Keep writing in your journals.
That was so good. I'm like,
That was fantastic.
whoa.